Happy March 23rd, everyone in this room, because this isn't coming out today. Our guest today is Kereliuk.
Ah, you're so close.
Ah,
You got to take the I out.
Kereliuk. Worse?
Not better.
Not.
How you doing, Mike AM? It's a good day for a podcast. He said, yeah, let's do it. I said, fuck yeah, okay, let's do it. And that's how it happened, and it's happening now.
Our guest today is Kereliuk, guitarist of Prismind.
You got that right. You got the pronunciation of the band right.
I heard you guys disagree sometimes on that, though.
Not the band.
No, you don't? Okay.
Us versus
that's
the
good.
world. Everyone's Prismind. Like,
Prismind.
What the hell is a Prismind?
You got to have both words in there.
We thought about doing
bit.
that. We thought about actually having it as two separate words. No. We'll make people work for it.
Yeah, well, you gotta be your number one Google search, right?
Absolutely.
You type in Prismind, you just get someone else talking about prisms and minds. So no gigs this weekend, but you had a sold-out guitar clinic at Long and McQuade Burlington.
That is true. Yeah,
it was
cool.
It was free, but it was sold out.
Yeah,
everyone had reserved, and they said no more.
They said no more, except for I think there was a few people who came in and kind of stood off to the side. But yeah, they had 45 seats arranged in the little guitar area there, and luckily, all of them showed up, which was cool. Yeah, it was a great time.
You said you were kind of expecting people to not show up.
Well, not
even when they told you.
You know, people RSVP for something like that, and even though it's free, they're not obligated to show up.
Right. And then because it's free, they're even less likely to.
Right, so the day comes and they're like, oh, well, you know what? I got to wash my hair today.
Well, it says it might rain.
I don't think I can make it. But luckily enough, all 45 seats were taken plus. So, yeah, it was wild. It was very cool.
What kind of things did you talk about?
Well, basically, when they approached me to do it, they wanted me to talk about building guitar technique. If it were up to me, I might not have stayed on that topic that long, as interesting as it is to me. But that's kind of what they were hoping that it would be about. So that's pretty much where it stayed. But, I mean, it's a deep topic. It's really cool. A lot of the different approaches to building your technique on a guitar or any instrument, really. So yeah, we easily ate up the hour and a half, just like that. Squeezed a few tunes in there, and
what do you think you have any controversial or different opinions on building technique?
Not really. A lot of it is standard. It's just that I think a lot of it, people don't really know what to look for when they're trying to build their technique. They don't really know, not everybody, but a lot of people, unless they stumble upon it, they don't really know what they should be looking for and what they should be doing along the way. And so that's kind of where I focused the most on. So I didn't really show any, it wasn't like, okay, here's exercise 1. No, you go home and do this. Because, I mean, it doesn't matter what it is you're working on. If you have trouble playing it, it basically means that your technique isn't there yet for that thing, whatever it is that you're trying to do. So regardless of what the subject is at the time, the lick or the part of the song that someone's working on, it's not so much about me going, okay, here you have to do this and then that. In terms of musical examples, it's more about here's how you approach that example to get it where you want. So yeah, someone made a comment on Facebook about it saying, I was at this clinic and it was, Kelly offered some very zen
I saw that. I was going to. I had that in my notes.
Yeah.
What can you think of? What the precise things, the most zen things that you said in that clinic were?
Kind of, yeah. It was sort of like a lot of people when they practice, and being that I teach a lot, I see a lot of people come in, and I'll show them something, and they'll start practicing it right there, right? So but what I'm seeing is I'm not seeing them practicing it. I'm seeing them attempting it. So they hear me play it, and then they go, okay, and they attempt it.
They try to mimic the full speed performance
right.
of the thing.
Exactly. or has to be, or whatever. But they're not actually nailing it at any tempo. They continue to try it. They continue to attempt it. And every time you do that, this little thing called muscle memory records every attempt. So if you do, let's say, 5 mistake-ridden attempts and 1 good one, what card is your brain going to pull when you do it for the 6th time? It's probably going to pull a bad one, and you'll probably make another mistake. So the analogy I like to use for that is, you can't run with the ball until you've caught it. So the idea is to practice something where you don't make mistakes. You're not allowed to make mistakes. And everyone's like, but my mom said it's okay to make mistakes when I grow up. Yeah, well, that's great, but it doesn't work here. It is possible for you to actually control what both of your hands are doing. Unlike any other sport, let's say baseball, you can't control. There's a few things you can control. You can control your movements. You can control a few things. But there's one thing in baseball you're not in control of.
The other players.
The ball.
Oh.
You're not really in control of the ball. If you're up to bat, that is. I should have specified. Right? You're trained to...
so you're saying that when you play baseball, you do control the other players, like telepathically?
Actually, no, I just meant like your reaction as a batter to the ball.
Yeah.
It's being thrown at you at 1,000,000 miles an hour. You're not in control of the speed. You don't know the speed or the velocity, or the wind might move it.
You have to see that
You're
in
only
the moment.
you're only trained to react the best you can. And so even a championship hitter is wrong half the time. Like misses the ball.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas if you were playing, an example, on the guitar or any instrument, but in guitar specifically, if you assume control of both hands, you can actually nail it perfectly. It may be way down here speed-wise, but so what? That's where you catch the ball. You have to get it there first. No one has the patience for that. Right? It's so non-glamorous to sit there and go... Right? Everyone's going to try and attempt it. They're going to oh, hang on. Right? They're going to keep futzing with it, and they're just building up bad muscle memory. So that was one of the things, is just trying to get people to realize that you got to go slower than you want to for a while, just for a while. But that was one of the things that we spent a bit of time on.
Making sure you're not practicing mistakes. And
you'll get good at whatever you practice, and if you're making mistakes, you'll get really good at them.
Do you ever catch yourself working on a new thing and hitting that wall where, like, you attempt it a few too many times?
Oh, of course. I have to remind myself of it from time to time. But it got to a point where I catch myself doing that less and less because I saw the results of doing it the right way. Mm-hmm. And you get addicted to that, right? Once you see how the right way works and that it works, you don't tend to want to slip back into the old way because you know how that doesn't work.
That's true.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah. I find it can be really challenging to kind of convince yourself to be addicted to good habits because their bad habits are immediately rewarding.
That's it, right?
That 1 in 10 times when you attempt it and nail it,
yeah,
you feel like such a champion. And then and then that just becomes your go-to thing instead of taking the time to do something.
But it basically came down to defining what practice is. And that is it. It's not attempting. It's very deliberate repetition of something very small and whatnot. Like you're building something, basically.
Just 1 second. Could you mark where the volume is on the amp and just have it turned all the way down? I guess you can hear me.
Like right, yeah.
Yeah, so because I think that's giving us some buzz.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that one just turned.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, see?
I didn't notice it until it was gone.
It's oddly. Oh, that's refreshing. What's one of when already somewhat experienced guitarists come to you, what's the most common thing aside from that, the practicing mistakes, attempting instead of
well,
breaking
that
down?
actually does happen. I get guys who, I mean, I get beginners too, and that's great because you sort of approach a beginner differently than you would someone who's teaching or someone who's been playing for a while. But as a teacher, it's kind of cool to have both, to have complete beginners, because then you get to, kind of go, okay, watch out for this and that. You get to guide them. Someone who's been playing a while, maybe they're in a band and recording and whatnot, they'll come in and they'll want to tune up. Basically, they'll want to advance a little more or whatever, but they've got their thing firmly planted. They can play, and they can play well. But when they come in and they want to, increase their chops or whatever, I almost always start them on a single string. And the look on their face when I suggest that is sort of like, "Aw, that's so kindergarten. Single strings, stupid. Why, Like, it's like they'll go, I want to do this. That's what I want to do. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but we have to start you on a single string first. And I'm like, because if you can't do this, at a high level, you're probably not going to do anything that involves string crossing or larger movements. You're going to have a harder time. So why not nail the most basic thing, which is coordinating your left and right hand on a single string, right? Like, get that to a high level first, because then you're going to have a much easier time, your brain's going to have a much easier time with the challenge of crossing strings. So like, that involved single strings for a little bit, but then I moved to a new string. If I've already got the single string thing covered, I'm covered for every instance that it occurs.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And so then, therefore, all I really have to focus on is moving to the next string, and not both. That's a lot of data for your brain to process.
That way you...
On a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah. Is it afternoon already?
I think so.
Oh, I'm on musician time. I feel like it's still morning. So, yeah, one thing that I think gets overlooked in practice is synchronization, having your left hand push down at the exact same time as your right, and at speeds like what you just demonstrated. That's everything, right? That would be a complete mess if your left and right hand were unsynchronized.
And that's the thing. And that's actually, speaking of the Zen stuff that we were referring to earlier, one thing I was pointing out to them is to basically think of all the qualities that you want the lick or the part to have, the musical qualities. So in other words, get people thinking musically, even if it's just an exercise or a simple, rather non-musical lick. I wouldn't call this extremely musical. But it could be expanded upon to, to be different things. Or whatever. So the point is that as you're practicing it, are you practicing it in a musical way? Is every note coming out clear? Are they connected smoothly? Is the tone that you're creating pleasant to your ears? So in other words, use your ears just as much as your hands. And I think a lot of players skip that. They try to get it fast first and then go, now I'll go and clean it up. Well, you're going to have to do all that work over again if you're going to try to, quote, clean it up, right? So the idea is listen to every note. Are you getting what you want from it there? So you make a list of all the qualities that you want. You might go, okay, I want the notes to be clean. I want the tone to be decent. I don't mean the amp setting necessarily. I just mean like the tone that you produce with your hands on the strings. You may make a list of all the musical things and include fast if you want, because I'm sure most people want to play certain things at a high tempo. But when you're practicing, scratch fast off the list. Don't practice it fast. Practice it musical. Practice it having it sound the way you want, because you will get fast if you do enough repetition. But what are you going to have at the end? Are you going to have it clean and good sounding, musical sounding, or is it going to be fast but kind of like a dog turd? You know?
Yeah.
So that's basically, that was another thing too, is making that list, that mental list, and just constantly engaging your ears.
Do you ever get tired of being like, I think you're like the guy that people go to when they want to like improve their chops? Do you ever just want to talk about notes? You know,
that gets
choices.
That gets brought up a lot too. Actually,
do you ever have people fight you? They're like, I don't care
No.
about melodies.
Not
Make
really.
Me oh, awesome.
Not really. No, it doesn't happen that often. I mean, yeah, people, I don't get sick of it because I was just as interested in it as well.
Mm-hmm.
But the difference for me was that a lot of my players who I was looking up to who could play that way were also very musical when they weren't playing that way. And when they were playing that way, it was still musical, right? So I know I don't get tired of it, because I was totally fascinated with the idea of being able to play at a higher level, because I couldn't do it. And I was like, what planet do these guys come from?
How old were you when you started playing guitar?
9. I was 9.
9. Do you remember what like triggered it?
So, you know what? Actually, I do. I do. I was watching, I think it was Much Music at the time, and I saw the video for a ZZ Top song. And it was the one with the fuzzy guitars that would spin on the belt buckle. Do you know what I'm talking about?
So many people say ZZ Top got them into playing guitar, and it's like, it makes so much sense when you know the band, but on a surface level, it's always so shocking.
Well, as a kid, it wasn't the music. It wasn't their music that got me into it.
It was the image.
It was the image of them spinning their guitars. And I went, well, fuck, I got to be able to do that. Right? So that's what kind of made me want to get into it. But I wasn't listening to ZZ Top. I couldn't relate to that at the time. It was like, Motley Crue and Twisted Sister.
Right.
And I had just come out of my, Michael Jackson phase at that point, believe it or not. So, yeah, that probably sparked it. It was probably that. That and having a friend around that time come over to my place and went to go hang out in the basement. And in the corner of the basement was my old air hockey set that didn't work anymore. The engine was blown. Right? So you plug it in, turn it on, nothing happens. And he's like, hey, let's play some air hockey. And I'm like, it doesn't work. He goes, can I have it? It doesn't work. He goes, yeah, I know, but can I have it? So I'm like, okay. So I asked my dad, I go, Dad, Seth wants the air hockey set. He's like, it doesn't work. I'm like, I know. He goes, let him have it. So I go back to the basement. I go, you can take it. He goes, cool. I'll give you 2 cassettes for it. I'm like, deal. Do they work? Because the air hockey set doesn't. And he goes, yeah, they do. So he runs home, grabs the cassettes, hands them to me, and then lugs the thing on his back home. Like 4 blocks. I think he lived 4 blocks away. Anyway, those 2 cassettes were, Motley Crue's Shout at the Devil and Twisted Sister, Stay Hungry. Oh. Much to my mother's dismay.
Right.
Right. So 9 years old, I'm listening to Motley Crue.
Was that in secret for a while, or what? No. Oh, so your mom just like frowned every time she heard it.
Well, I think she looked at the covers and went,
Oh yeah.
What's my precious little boy getting into?
Could have been Smell the Glove,
right?
At least it wasn't.
Well, see, at the time, no, see, yeah, it would have been around.
What's wrong with being a little sexy?
Sexist. Well, around that time too, they were very controversial, right?
Yeah,
like the Crew were always in the headlines.
Have you seen that movie that just came out?
I haven't. No,
I kind of want to. I heard there's a scene where Ozzy's in it, and the guy who plays him is just just nails it.
Probably, yeah. To be honest with you, I don't really have any interest in seeing it.
Yeah, kind of same, but
It's like biographies, like music biographies.
I'd rather watch a documentary.
I'd rather just not. I'm not interested in, because they're all the same. They're basically all the same, right? They're
That's
like,
true.
here's the seedy side of what happened in my life, and I don't know. I'm not into the.
No one
filth.
talks about the work that went into it.
Not many.
Yeah,
Not many.
that's true. And that kind of gives people the wrong impression, like you can just kind of like coast through this thing that's very much a discipline. And it's just like, oh, I get how rock and roll works. I take drugs, get a record label, overdose to make my triumphant return after I come out of rehab, and money.
It just seems like
last step profit.
People love soap operas, though. They love the drama of all that. I'm just like, I don't. You know what? If it's someone I really admired, I don't want to know how bad they were.
Oh.
You know what I mean? I don't want to know more than I already know. So there goes the mystery then. There goes the mystique of what that person was all about to me. Right?
I remember this, Carl Jennings, right? Ish.
I know of him, yeah. I don't think I've met him.
I just remember him talking one time. My band recorded an album with him, and in one of the sessions he was talking about how he didn't know what Led Zeppelin looked like for years.
Yeah.
It was like I don't think they appeared in the cover art of like the first any of the albums, really. He said,
not that I can think of.
Yeah,
That's true.
so and now it's like you have stuff like this. You have Instagram stories and
Oh, yeah.
whatever. You get so much closer to the personality of someone, and it becomes so intertwined with just like what they're building that you're just trying to enjoy, that doesn't necessarily even have anything to do with them.
That's true, yeah. And a lot of times they don't really know how to take it or how to deal with it because it's never been that way. You've never had instant access right away. So I think they're getting used to it now. It's been around for a number of years, the whole social media thing. But
Yeah.
But imagine, some of these guys, and all of a sudden they're like, "What is this Twitter? Tweet? What?
Tweet.
I guess, all right.
Tweet tour.
Yeah, right. And so I'm sure a lot of these guys who are been around forever probably had an adjustment period. They're not used to sharing everything ever. Some guys do a really good job of it, though.
Who are your favorites on Instagram?
You know who really surprised me a lot in how regular he posts and how funny he is. And really cool is Zach Wilde.
Mm-hmm.
Too much, man. Like,
Really? I don't
he
think
would
I
do these-
follow him, which...
Yeah.
Yeah.
He does a lot of...
I'm doing that right now.
He does a lot of guitar videos, but he does a lot of silly stuff.
I saw the Hello Kitty guitar one. John 5 did one as well.
Yeah.
But that's not on their own Instagram page, right?
I don't think so. Well, I'm sure they posted it or reposted it on that. But yeah, he's really good. I don't know. I'd have to think about that, actually. But he's one that just kind of surprised me. He certainly doesn't need the extra, exposure that Instagram produces. But for a guy to sit there and think of the zany stuff that he does and then actually do it on
You feel like
Instagram,
you're like
it's
hanging out with him as like a fan. Yeah.
I just think it's neat. Most guys at his level would just be like, "Oh, I ain't got time for that crap." You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But he does, so it's kinda
Yeah, and
cool.
like you said, they don't need to do it at all. I was showing Erik and I are in a band called Zero Fire. We released an EP yesterday, and
There
we
it
were
is. having
having a little get together last night, jamming a bit in celebration, and we had we almost had a show. We never even had a show. It just kind of didn't happen. But I was showing our lead guitarist Vince, some of your videos, and the first thing that he says is just how relaxed you look when you play.
There's something to that. Basically, when I started playing, I pressed way too hard. and I think most players do. They're warned, when you start playing guitar, look out, you're going to get calluses and blisters and all this stuff. And I certainly did for the first little while. Years later, it dawned on me, the reason why we do that, if let's assuming your guitar is not like, a piece of crap, and that the strings are a mile off the fretboard, and there's a reason why you have to press really hard. So let's say you have a decent guitar that's set up properly. Chances are you're still going to press too hard at the beginning. The reason is because you haven't developed accuracy yet. And so you're not getting the note you want. Maybe you're not pressing with the right part of your finger at the right part of the fret, which is a very precise thing. So to compensate, you press harder. And you may get the note just, that you're looking for. But as you get better, as you develop more precision, I think a lot of players are surprised to find out that, hey, I'm not pressing as hard as I used to. And that was the case for me. Like I'm sitting here across from you. I don't know if you can tell. I've been playing for 30 some years.
Your fingers aren't gnarled at all.
I don't have calluses.
Yeah.
I play hours a day, every day. Teach I'm
kind of the same way.
5 hours a day.
They're kind of leathery. Like there's like a thickness to them that's not the same on like
on the other thing. Yeah.
Well, I play bass in some classical, so like my right pinky is the only one that doesn't have anything going on. This one's
well, get on it.
So what do I do with it?
Flex it. So the whole thing came from learning that no more pressure is needed after you get the note you want. Mm-hmm. Right? So you press just light enough to get the note you want. So sometimes I'll have students that are clearly pressing too hard, right? And so I'll kind of demonstrate this little thing where I have them like place their finger over a particular string at a particular fret, and I say, don't press at all, like lightly touch it and keep picking. And so they get this little tick sound, right? And they're like, okay. And I say, press a little more. Still nothing. Okay, just a little more. I go, stop. Now back off. And the look on their face is like, oh, that required no pressure at all. And I go, exactly. So the amount of pressure it took for you to get that note is all you need. Anything more than that is wasted energy, and your note's not going to sound any cooler. That's it. That's what you want right there. And so I kind of took that in mind, and so basically, it looks very relaxed because it is. I'm not pressing any harder than I need. I just work on being precise and staying relaxed. But I practice that way too.
Right. And do you find you have to take a minute, or do you have any sort of ritual to kind of counteract the adrenaline rush you feel at a performance? Do you get that? Do you feel like you kind of your instincts take over and start to fight with what you've trained when there's a big crowd in front of you or anything?
It happened more when I wasn't paying as much attention to, in the practice room, playing comfortably. I'll give you an example. Like when I used to warm up with the impression that I should get the blood pumping. Do you know what I mean? So I would play pretty hard. I would pick hard. I would basically try to get the blood flowing, as they say. Not that I'm going to break a sweat or anything, but I wanted to I wanted to feel it in my hands and then relax them, and then I'm ready. And so what you're describing actually happened a lot more because I had just programmed my muscle memory to be, to dig in, right? I had just reminded my hands, oh yeah, I want you to dig in. So yeah, when the adrenaline kicks in or whatever, sure, I would press harder, and next thing you know, I'm like not playing as well as I probably could. So what happened is I don't warm up that way anymore. What I do, warming up to me is simply reminding my muscle memory of how light and relaxed I want to be. So when I'm warming up, I don't practice fast. I don't try to get my BPMs up or anything. I just play very very relaxed and comfortable. trying to break world records. Basically, what I'm doing is by kind of reminding my hands of what I want them to do. Whatever I've done in the practice room is going to take over.
Do you put any thought into how you're breathing while you play?
No, I just make sure that I am.
Just that you are?
Yeah.
Okay. Because sometimes people don't.
No, that's true.
And, okay.
But I think, again, that stems from the practice room. If your goal, like, you have to practice being relaxed. That's what you're practicing.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of that list. I didn't mention it, but that's part of that list, right? You want to be precise. You want to, all the good musical qualities. But yeah, you're also practicing being relaxed. If you practice being tense, if you, again, attempt stuff, you're going to run at it, not qualified to do it yet. And yeah, of course, you're going to be like, hitching your breath and, turning blue or whatever.
Yeah.
I've seen it too. Yeah, I see a lot of guys and they look uncomfortable, but they practice being uncomfortable. So they're, it's not an accident. Actually, when I showed up today, you were playing some Paul Gilbert stuff. It was he that I read an interview with, and the interviewer asked him something about that, like, what kind of preparation do you do for a tour? Like, do you practice a lot? And he goes, basically, I practice all the difficult stuff I have to do, and I make sure that I can do it. Now, I can't remember if it was 10 beats per minute faster or 10%.
10 times.
10 fast. Well, you wouldn't put it past him, right? But let's say it was 10%. He says, I practice the hardest stuff I have to do, and to get it 10% better than I need it to be, so that, and here comes the Paul Gilbert sense of humor, so that when the tomatoes and the shoes are flying at me and the cannons are going off, I can still, pull off what I have to do at the level I should be doing it at. In other words, it's sort of like, if you have more firepower than you need, you're not going to exhaust yourself. Mm-hmm. Right? So there was another thing I kind of talked about at the clinic. It was like, you have two cars and they're both going 100 miles an hour. One's a Ferrari and one's a K car. They're both doing 100, but one of them is having a hard time. One of them is near the top of their level.
Yeah.
Right? So they're going to get tired sooner, or they're going to run out of gas or whatever. The Ferrari's not going to have any trouble at all. That's well under their limit. So if there's any reason to practice your technique, even though you think you're just, the blues guy who doesn't need that kind of crap, well, there is a reason to practice it. Because if you can play stuff at a higher level than what you need, you're going to cruise through your gig.
It's going to be effortless when you do it.
Yeah. You don't have to pull off the stuff live. You don't have to show it off or anything if that's not your bag. But if you can do that kind of stuff, you're not gonna sweat your gig at all.
How do you feel about string gauge? What are your thoughts? More tone from fatter strings.
Some people say that.
Is it worth it?
No. One time I went to I had nines on the guitar, which is pretty light.
Wow, that's very light.
But not unusual. A lot of players, play light gauge. And then I went to 11s on a guitar with a Floyd Rose, with the floating bridge. Which, if anyone out here doesn't know what that is, it's a pain in the ass if you instantly
That's all you
gauges.
need to know. If you're ever thinking about it, don't.
That's right. So other than the 6 hours it took me to fix the bridge, going from 9s to 11s, really I didn't really notice any real benefit to it. It just took longer to warm up at the time, because again, back in the day I was warming up. I was trying to get the blood pumping. I wasn't really working on relaxing or anything like that. So
did you go back to 9s, or did you meet in the middle?
Meet in the middle.
Yeah,
so
10s?
now I do 10 to, I got a 7-string guitar, so I use a 59 on the bottom, which is pretty heavy. But there's less flub. Mm-hmm. So if I'm playing 7-string stuff, it's not going to rattle around and make any extra buzzing or anything.
What is that guitar? That's
pretty cool, eh?
Yeah.
A friend of mine took our CD. He took the CD out of the tray, and the artwork that's underneath the tray is this. And
I thought that was
now
like your band, right?
Yeah, it's
so
like this character is also on the cover.
Yeah,
but not this particular image. What you're seeing here is actually underneath the CD itself. So here's what happened. The guy who did it for me is a good friend of mine named Al, and he was a student at one point too. And he kind of surprised me for my birthday. He bought this guitar, which is I think a 99 Ibanez RG 720 or 7260 or some arrangement of numbers. Who knows? He stripped it down, whatever the finish was on it, stripped it down, put the white paint on, and then he did that by hand with pen.
What?
Like a special kind of ink. If you look up close, you'll see it's like it's drawn on there.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he did the whole thing by hand. Took about, I think he said about 30 hours. And then he had commissioned or talked to about 3 people to do like the clear coat finish on it. And there's only so many people that can do that, right? It's not like you don't just spray it and walk away, right? So he lived in the Toronto area, and he basically found about 3 guys who could possibly do it. One guy said he would do it and then backed out at the last minute. Another guy never returned his call. I don't know what happened to the third guy. I don't think anyone knows. So now he's sitting there. He's got the guitar. He's got the artwork all done. I still don't know a damn thing about it. And now he's like, fuck, I got to figure out I got to do this myself. I got to learn how to do the clear coat finish on it. So he did his research. He practiced over,
on another guitar,
or
just a random wood surface.
Probably, yep. Did his research, and he had to consider one thing too, which I never thought of until he was explaining it to me. He said, I had to be very careful that the type of material that I'm using for the clear coat
wouldn't make the ink run.
Exactly. Wouldn't react to the ink type. And he said there's
because it could act like a solvent.
All that work would have been down the drain, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was delayed. I didn't get it on my birthday, which, again, I didn't know.
You weren't waiting for it, so...
Right. No idea, right?
It's not like you commissioned this.
No, exactly. So one day he shows up to his lesson, and it's not unusual for him to have his guitar, obviously, so he brings the guitar case, puts the case down, and says, I can't stay for my lesson, but here, enjoy. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? He goes, open up the case. And yeah, he had this, and I'm like, get out of here. You're a maniac. Hi, Al. How's it going?
Shout out to Al.
Yep, big time.
Talented mofo.
Pick up Crunch Lab Liquefier.
Good job on the Crunch Lab. This one, I'm honestly not sure. I think he told me, because he put this one in, I think he told me this one was stock. It might still be the stock pickup. I'm not really sure. But yeah, that is a Crunch Lab.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's just stock. Everything else is stock. But yeah, one of a kind.
Wow.
Everyone loves this guitar.
Does it have a name?
No. I don't name my
Yeah, me neither.
guitars, no.
Yeah.
I worry about people that do.
It got like a Negan from Walking Dead situation. This one's Lucille. Uh-oh.
Oh, I don't watch the show.
Oh, he has a baseball bat named Lucille that he
okay.
bludgeons people with. It has barbed wire wrapped around it, which is overkill, because what difference does that make? Maybe. now
true,
I'm
right?
picturing I mean...
You whacked me over the head with a bat. That was bad enough. But, dude, barbed wire?
Now you've crossed the line.
Yeah.
We are not friends
Now
anymore.
I'm telling your mother.
You are not getting a Christmas card this year. What's something you listen to that what's like the most shocking thing that you legit listen to that people wouldn't expect?
I got a couple Sheryl Crow albums.
Oh, she's fantastic.
Yeah.
I saw this like old festival video. Have you seen that one where they're doing Sweet Child of Mine and she's playing bass on it?
I don't know. I've got a live DVD. I don't know what era it falls under exactly. But
The unplugged one? That was
no,
great too.
it wasn't that. No, I've got this. I want to say the second and the third album. It's great stuff. Yeah, one of my favorite, easily my favorite female rock singer. Other than that, quite a bit of bluegrass stuff. Norman Blake, Tony Rice, Ricky Skaggs. His Kentucky Thunder band is like insane.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I probably wouldn't show my friends my record collection. back in the day, it's a little too eclectic. I don't give a shit now, but yeah, there's stuff that I'm sure people are like, dude, really?
What are you currently working on with your guitar playing? Is there like a concept that you're trying to untangle or anything?
I'm always working on something, but it depends on what I have upcoming. So lately it had been stuff for the clinic, right? It had been basic stuff for that. A lot of Bach, actually.
Right.
I like working on some of his pieces. I got about 3 memorized at the moment. Strictly just for picking, just for picking accuracy, and I'm not looking to perform them or anything like that. They're just for practice. But integrated into those things are like some really clever melodic ideas, right? So I'm pretty sure I'm absorbing that as well. But it's really just for the exercise of it. Instead of your typical guitar exercise kind of stuff that everyone gets shown, everyone talks about. A lot of guitar exercises are designed to be played. They're designed almost to be played quickly. Like they're set up in such a way that it's easy to do. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Where you try playing a Bach piece at that speed.
Yeah.
And it's like, it ain't happening.
I mean, it's not built for your instrument, first of all.
Exactly, right? And so my goal isn't to get it to that speed necessarily. It's just get it to whatever level I can get it at. And
also, when you think of the mathematical precision of his compositions, there's probably nothing better to have the perfect possible note choices for each chord change under your fingers.
And that's the thing. He definitely is following chord changes. Like they're definitely, his melodic ideas are based on the harmony, like solid, which is great. A lot of guitar-based stuff isn't necessarily, so so yeah, I like working on that stuff.
One really cool thing that I try to do sometimes, this exercise that Jaco Pastorius said to do, is to write the jazz notation of like you'd see the 7 chords on a lead sheet over the Bach, like any composition by Bach.
Oh, okay.
So you'll get like, I think I have one on like the first page of that book, and you get these really cool kind of transitions.
Oh, for sure they would.
That you're like, oh, you can move from this chord and modulate to this key in this way.
Yeah.
And you get these really cool ideas out of it.
Yep, he was. He definitely was a thinker.
He was pretty good.
Yeah, he was getting there. I think,
Yeah.
a couple more days and he would have had it.
He would have had it. Yeah.
Actually, one thing I didn't know until recently is that one of my favorite albums is Al Di Meola's Land of the Midnight Sun.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you're familiar with that one or not, but that's actually the first album that Jaco ever played on. He's only on one song.
Really?
But that was actually his first recording session. And I was like, well...
He must have been like 16.
He was young.
Or maybe.
He was young.
Because I know that, that first Pat Metheny record, I think Pat Metheny's 19 and Jaco's 21 on it.
Oh, okay.
Bright Size Life.
Yeah. What year was that? 76?
Yeah, late 70s.
Because Land of the Midnight Sun, if I'm not mistaken, is 75.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong about that, but that makes sense. I don't know, I think it's 75.
I love Jaco's story where he wanted to be an upright player, but he lived in Florida and his bass just exploded one day.
Yeah.
Because of the heat.
Yeah.
And he's like, guess I'll revolutionize electric bass now.
Oh, well, here we go.
Oh, well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Woe was me.
Do you know who Borelli Legrand is?
I do.
I just discovered an album where a Jaco Pastorius album. You know the one? The Stuttgart Aria is the name of the album. And it's late. I never even considered that these timelines would line up. But it's like late Jaco Pastorius with like teenage Borelli Legrand on guitar.
Yeah.
And it's out there. There's a lot of ultra cheese 80s keyboards on there, but even the keys, like obviously the players are like, no one's a slacker in that band,
No,
right?
They wouldn't be.
So, but you get these like really wacky keyboard sounds that are cutting edge at the time, and just Borelli just like shredding electric guitar.
Yeah, which is weird. I heard one album someone had lent me, and it was mostly the gypsy jazz kind of stuff that he's known for. But the last track is him like playing a metal song. I can't remember what the name of the album was or what the track was, but I might have a copy of it at home. I'll have to check it out. But yeah, it was,
it's discouraging.
Just sitting there. Well, or encouraging, depending on who you're, who you are.
I had that here. Al Di Meola, John McLaughlin, Paco de Lucia.
Yeah.
How much acoustic do you play?
None, because I don't own one.
You don't own?
Nope. But when I used to work at a local music store, part of my job when I wasn't teaching was to kind of care for the acoustic room. So
yes,
make sure that humidifiers working and stocked with water and all that.
Keep the guitars
Dusting,
company.
tuning.
Make sure they don't get lonely.
Exactly.
Shred
Dusting.
some.
Well, that's the thing, right? So every time I would go in to do some of that, of course, I would pick up one of them at least, and whatever I would pick up would instantly suggest something to play. So if it was a nylon string, classical guitar, then instantly I'm like, I'm in Friday Night in San Francisco mode, playing flamenco-y kind of stuff. Like a white boy, though, so don't worry, right? It wasn't super authentic, I'm sure, but it just made me go into that mode. If it was a if it was a steel string, probably more of the bluegrassy kind of stuff and stuff like that. So I would love to play more. I just don't own one at the moment.
Two things I want to get to. One, something I heard David Gilmour say when it was part of his selling off all of his guitars for charity thing. He was saying that every guitar has like a life and a personality, and when you first pick it up, it gifts you one song. It's just like it's in there already. You pick it up, and is that not the truest thing? Like,
I don't know. I've never really.
You don't think you've experienced that? I always feel like every guitar just has like screams out how it wants to be played.
Maybe okay
right away, and then
that description makes I can relate to that more. I don't know. Some people get really personal with their instruments, like to the point where they're naming them.
Yeah.
or whatever. Like they find certain things really precious. I'm actually not very precious about guitars in general, except for
other than that one,
except for this one for obvious reasons.
One of a kind masterpiece. Yeah.
But it might sound silly, but I'll walk into a music store and I don't go, ooh, look at all the guitars and oh, heaven. It's like, okay, where's your picks?
Yeah.
Where's the books? Picks and books, man. That's what it's all about. Yeah, the guitars are like, they're tools to me. It doesn't really affect me the way that, some people, they get really precious about the instrument, which I can respect or whatever, but it's just not. Luckily for me, or else I would have
a few hundred.
I would have a lot of room at home, you know
yeah.
what I mean? So, yeah. So I've saved money by being a pick and book fiend.
Yeah, I think once you find that, I think you kind of end up with more guitars the less you play out, maybe. I think if you're going out on every weekend or whatever and playing, you just want that old reliable thing. And I've kind of settled into like my kind of top three, and a bunch of my stuff is now just kind of like at studios that the stuff that I don't really care about is just at the places I work at.
Plus, if it's really nice, you don't want it to leave the house. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you'd be really kind of. Well, I would be. I'd be very paranoid about taking something out. Like until recently, I wouldn't even use this guitar for lessons.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm at home. What's the big deal, right? But if I have to write something down and it requires a pen, forget it. Because this guitar is no one listening to this can see, but it's predominantly white. And for some reason, pens have a miraculous habit of exploding in my hands. So I get ink all over my hands for no reason. Doesn't matter how good the pen is. I challenge any pen manufacturer to design one that doesn't blow up in my hand. So, yeah.
Well, you're shooting fire out of your fingertips all the time. You might want to reconsider that.
It's not the pen, bro.
Yeah. I've been holding this the whole time.
You have a point. That's all there is. I boil ink is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
But I would get it all over my hands. Now, when I had a black guitar, it was no big deal. If I accidentally hit it, I can tell by looking at it, oh, there's a little bit of ink there, but it's not visible from any distance, right? So this thing would just stay in the case most of the time. I would play it at the odd show, but now I've kind of wizened up and I stopped using pen, and so I'm just trying to work this one in more. Even though it's not a new guitar, I don't think it's been played very much. I think the guy who originally owned it probably went like, and that was it. He didn't really play it. The bridge was brand new. Usually, if there's any wear and tear, you're going to see it right about here, right? But everything was like brand new. But it's like 1999.
We were talking about this earlier about how violins are become like these relics, and they get passed down from one very good player to another, and people really feel like the kind of the wood settles in a certain way. That I remember one of my bass teachers, Kieran Overs, had 150 or 200-year-old upright bass, and it was worth as much as a house.
Yeah,
like he had it. He paid insurance for it. It was insane. And this thing sounded phenomenal. And he was the first one that kind of told me about this concept.
Okay, I've heard that before. I believe there's some truth to that. I mean, you're vibrating the damn thing, right? So it's going to and everyone who plays it is going to have a different touch to it. Not to mention the gross stuff like finger oil and all that kind of stuff that goes into it, right? But yeah, I mean, I think you wear it in like you would wear in a baseball glove or whatever else, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, Joe Satriani.
Yeah.
Right?
Eric's laughing already.
I always thought this was so cool how Joe Satriani was like the guitar teacher of like Larry Lalonde, Steve Vai, and Kirk Hammett.
Alex Skolnick.
Really?
Probably a bunch of other guys we don't know about.
Yeah, probably. And how crazy is it to see like students of your own kind of like forming bands, and you listen to the stuff and you're like, whoa, I like this.
It's pretty cool. It's you got to feel a bit of, proud moment here and there when these guys bust out. And actually the coolest ones are the ones where when they leave me, I honestly think some of them are just going to drop it. You get those students where it's almost like they're obligated by their parents to do something other than pick their nose. So they go, okay, well, just give me a guitar. I'll do guitar. So, and a lot of the time they're younger and they don't, I just get this feeling that some of them just really aren't into it, but they like coming to lessons. They come for years.
Yeah.
But they don't
But they
play.
only practice when you're telling them exactly what to do.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
They don't pick up the guitar at all, right? So I'm going, what the hell's going on here? Like, why do you keep coming? But I start to realize it's I'm kind of like the cooler uncle.
Yeah.
They want to hang out with for a half an hour, right? To get away from whatever. That's the only thing I could think of. I remember a couple years ago, I ran into this lady at a grocery store, and it was the mom of one of my students. And the student, when she was taking lessons with me, was like, I want to say between 16 and 18. She came in for a couple years. And Nice girl, but she certainly wasn't a practicer. She wasn't, it was a therapy session. It was basically,
Right.
she comes in the lesson and I'm basically,
Just trying to keep things on topic.
that was out the window after about 2 minutes,
Yeah.
right? It was just hearing about how school was going and personal life and all this kind of stuff, right? So basically I was a psychologist, right? And so I'm talking to Mom, and she goes, now, Kelly, I know that she wasn't the best student. I know she didn't really practice, and but I have to say thank you very much, because every time she would leave the lesson, she wouldn't be a bitch. She was happy. She would come in a complete bitch, but then she would leave like better. So I have to thank you for that. That's why I kept her coming to you for lessons for years, right? And I'm like, you're welcome.
You're welcome.
What else can you say? I mean, it's sort of like, I wasn't expecting that, but some of them are like that. I mean,
I thought it was going to be like, she just recorded like an EP of her own songs and like came back to No, it's just
well, yeah, I kind of went off on a tangent.
you
there,
helped with their personality.
Well, no, sometimes it does work that way where someone, stops lessons or whatever, and I see them a few years later, and I'll be like, hey, man, you still playing? And some of them who I think, and the answer is going to be no, I stopped that years ago. They're like, yeah, I'm actually in a band. I'm like, wow, okay. Sometimes it happens where they're stubborn, they don't want to practice, they don't do anything, and whatever. And then they stop for the summer. And then they come back, and all of a sudden they're interested. They're like determined. I'm like,
What happened?
it's only been 2 months. You were a little shit back then. Why now? And then I find out that over the summer they met a friend who plays guitar.
And they're already better than
And
them.
it's better than them. You got it. Exactly.
Oh, the friend is better than
The
them.
friend is better
Oh.
than them. And so they're like,
Some competition.
I better start.
And they haven't been playing as long either. And they're just like, oh.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what practice gets you?
Yeah. And then
All
they
right,
come
let's
back.
try some of this practice.
They come back with a different frame of mind, different mentality.
Actually, I've had this one student for a while who he came in when he was very young, and it was very, very much just like they needed somewhere to drop the two kids for an hour to do groceries or something like that.
Yeah.
And he was maybe like 7 or something, and he was insane. I remember this one time he was sitting with like there was a door behind him in the room that we were at in the studio, and he like kind of hit his head off the doorknob, and I was like, "Oh, are you okay?" And he saw that concerned me, and he started laughing and like doing it again, and like the more
Oh my God.
the more I like freaked out, the funnier he found it. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Stop. And
This isn't normal.
and like every week he'd come back and like the shit from the week before was like brand new to him. And then like over the one summer, his dad took him camping for 7 weeks.
Oh my God.
And he chilled the fuck out.
Really? I came back.
Yeah. And it was, and now it's like a couple of years later, and he's, I don't know, maybe like 12 or 13 now or something like that. And
Maybe
he's
they
like,
regulate.
we have,
Maybe they regulated his dosage.
maybe he just
Man.
got, I don't know, just some of that nature,
It's weird, yeah.
They started. his dad just low-key dosed him with like psilocybin, just like look at the stars for a bit, figure shit out. Oh my God.
Stop hitting your head off the door.
You psycho.
Yeah. Oh, there's no shortage of entertainment in that profession. That's for sure.
Yeah, he knocked that memory out of his head too. I'm like, do you remember that one time in like our first year of lessons? And he's like, no, I never did that. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Wow.
Makes sense, actually. No, I think it's like just brain damage. Here's a philosophical one. Music as its own world or dimension. You can kind of get lost in harmony. Not even lost, but you can jump into this portal that is your guitar. You can just sit here or anywhere in the world, doesn't matter. And kind of it doesn't matter if you're in like this confined space. That's dope, eh?
A lot of people really do get lost when they play. You sit down with the intention of picking away for 15 minutes because you think that's all you got.
Mm-hmm.
And then you snap out of it and you realize, oh, I better go to bed.
Yeah. Yeah.
I haven't done that in a long time. I don't really find myself falling into that, probably because my day is pretty regimented, so I can't afford to do that.
Right.
I have to constantly be looking at the clock because I got a bunch of stuff to do before I embark on 5 hours of teaching that night, right? So guitar time, I try to get in just as much time practice as I do teaching. It doesn't happen all the time, but I do try to. But I have to kind of, schedule it. So the whole plugging in and just watching the room spin around as I get lost and stuff hasn't happened in quite a long time. But I certainly have. I certainly have experienced that where, lazy Saturday afternoon or whatever, and there's nothing going on and no one's home. So you pick up the guitar, and next thing you know, it's like you got to make dinner. And you picked it up at, 10 in the morning. So
do you backing tracks or looping pedal?
I don't own a looping pedal. Backing tracks, I do. I recommend people using them for.
I like drum machines a lot.
Stuff like that. I just use a metronome.
Yeah.
So a lot of people say, "Oh, I don't like metronomes and stuff like that."
That's why you need it.
I prefer. Well, that's the thing, right? If you need something other than that, then you don't have enough sense of the beat and rhythm. You're the one who's supposed to supply that.
Yeah.
Right. Now, I'm not saying don't use drum machines because they're certainly super cool and they're more fun than a metronome, but they have
some of the same benefits.
It's a different. Oh, for sure, absolutely. But it's a different purpose, I would think. I don't think anyone should completely disregard the metronome, but that's just me, and I'm a nerd.
It's like, eat your kale. Can't I just switch to whole wheat bread?
Does it have kale in it? So,
what was it? Was it that Quentin posted something that it was like the guitar player from Lamb of God says he doesn't.
Oh, that was Davis.
Oh yeah, it was Davis. Yeah, the guitar player from Lamb of God says he doesn't feel inclined to use a metronome ever, and then a producer friend of ours just retweeted that with the caption "fuck."
Yeah,
because he's the one who has to clean up all the mistakes of all the people reading this tweet.
Well, the thing is that guitar players are kind of the laughing stock of the recording industry in terms of musicians for timing reasons. And, at first I read that was actually a quote I read from someone. I can't remember who now, but I was sort of like, you dick. And then I thought, well, hang on, no, that's actually true. If you think about the way you get into, guitar and as you develop, we're so concerned about the left hand. It's everything. It's, all the chords, you got to worry about that. You got to worry about pressure and how much, accuracy of fretting and not to mention all the cool, flashy stuff. And then later you go, oh, I guess I have another hand too. I got this picking hand, which is underdeveloped and blah, blah, blah.
Which is ironically most people's dominant hand.
Yeah, right, exactly. But we're so concerned with lefty that righty gets left out. So, but anyway, you work on that for a while. But ultimately, these two hands, which do two totally different things, have to come together, right? But tying it together rhythmically is the last thing that actually gets any real focus, right? We're so concerned about either or that putting them together tends to be the last element. Mm-hmm. So that I think that's why a lot of guitar players maybe struggle with rhythm or rhythmic aspects more than, say, a drummer, where that's his entire bread and butter.
Yeah, one
that.
A drummer friend of mine whose recording sessions always went extremely quickly. Right, he said one of the most revolutionary exercises was something his uncle told him to do that he never thought to do, and it was the most basic thing, was to hit the kick and the snare and the hi-hat all at the same time. And just like, is it really lining up?
Right.
Am I really doing these at the same time, or is there like a slight flam to this?
Yeah.
And when you objectively look at that, the most basic thing, which is a single note, you might realize, and it's the one thing, like you said, playing on one string. It's
Totally. That
one thing is every single thing you do.
Yeah, it is, yeah. Exactly. And I have a lot of people come in and they have a metronome, or they get a metronome or whatever, and like I remember having a hell of a time with it. And I had been playing for, I think, I just cuffed myself. Oh, I'm that kid. I see the reaction when I'm doing it again.
Oh, you think that's funny?
Yeah, exactly. There you go. I'd been playing for about 3 or 4 years before I even got one, so I could play some stuff. I could play some Led Zeppelin or whatever, and I could play some stuff. And I sat down to work on I got a metronome, and I finally took the advice of all my favorite players who were saying stuff about the metronome. And I finally got one, and I turned it on, and I started working on this exercise that I'd already felt pretty good about. And it was off. I apparently couldn't play to it, so I stopped. And then I start again, and still I caught myself after about a minute being completely out of line with the timing. And then I went, wait a minute, what the hell's going on? I'm like, am I unable to do this? Should I try the triangle? What's going on?
Oh, that's even harder.
Right? But then I realized something. I thought, you know what? I'm listening to me. I'm paying attention to what I'm doing, and I'm listening to what's coming out of my amp. This little ticking box is just something I've put out off to the side. It's there, right? Perhaps I assumed that it would just radiate magic, and I would just instantly be better because it's on. But I realized that the switch had to happen in my head. I had to listen to the metronome, not to me. Because at what was happening up to that point was the opposite. I'm listening to me. I'm paying attention to what I'm doing. And I'm hearing the metronome. I'm not listening to it. So I had to make that flip. I had to listen to the metronome and hear me. Of course I can hear me. I'm coming out of the amp.
Yeah.
But I'm not paying like super close attention to that. I'm really trying to shadow that. That's my goal. If you're shadowing somebody, you're not looking around at everyone else. You know, you can see them in your peripheral, but if you're shadowing somebody, you're really trying to like zero in on what that person's doing, regardless of your surroundings. Well, that's kind of what it's like playing with a metronome. And I think a lot of players who can't or feel that they can't play with a metronome, that's really what's going on, is they need that mental shift. And it happens instantly. Once you get it, it happens like instantly, and you'll never screw it up again.
Yeah.
But it is a weird thing.
Do you like, one thing I like to do is to kind of subtract beats from the metronome. Jens Larsen, YouTube jazz guitarist.
Sounds familiar. I may have seen some videos of his.
So Metronome on 2 and 4 is a classic.
Yeah.
I love that one because you're supplying your own downbeat, and then the metronome tells you if you were right.
Right.
And then from time to time, I'll go with if the tempo allows for it, because not enough, not many metronomes go below 40, let alone.
No, that's true.
The one I have goes down to 30. This keyboard actually goes down to 10, which is...
That's inhumane.
Yeah, that's mean. I remember one of my bass teachers, Will Jarvis, he used to get out a metronome and put it down to 30 beats per minute, and he would just be like... He would clap along to it for long enough and like loud enough that I thought that the metronome was off. Right. I was like, okay, it ran out of batteries while he was clapping because because all I'm hearing is clapping, and then he'd stop, and then the metronome would start again. I know I still to this day can't figure out how he did it.
Subdividing.
Yeah.
Mental subdivision, right? So you hear that. I mean, you could take a nap between beats.
Yeah.
And you'd wake up to the next beat. But in their head, they're going... They're doing the subdivisions mentally, which is really the only way.
All right, so this thing that Jens, I think, I don't know. I would assume it's soft J.
I believe you're probably correct on that.
Santiago. So he played a swing rhythm with the metronome on the middle beat of the triplet that you don't play. And he's just like casually playing through this like a jazz standard with the metronome basically just like in between
yeah.
everything. It's hard to listen to, whether let alone even try to play.
Yeah, conceptually, that would be a hard thing to to wrap your head around. But I guess if you can do it, I mean, your overall sense of timing. I mean, the amount of times you would practically have to do that are probably nil.
Yeah,
but if you can, right? It's that whole thing again.
And there's no drum solo that's throwing you off the beat, you know.
No, exactly.
Soundchaser has some violins in it. That's a really cool sound. The
electric violin.
Yeah. What are they called? Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
Well, actually, we haven't talked. That's true. Actually, yes. But the Symphinity project also has a violinist who was in Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
Wow.
Yeah, Siobhan, great, amazing player. It's really cool. Actually, some of the people on this thing is like insane.
Wow.
Yeah, we've got. Well, the whole thing started with these two brothers in Boston, Benny and Brian Goodman, and we've been Facebook friends for a while, and kind of checking each other's stuff out and chatting back and forth. And a number of years ago, Benny messaged me and says, "Hey, Brian and I, you know, they're classically trained pianists and stuff like that. They're like, we have like these classical sort of symphonic pieces just lying around. We haven't really done anything with them. Would you be interested in maybe playing some guitar on one of them just so we could do something with it, right?" I said, sure. So send one over. And they did. And I added little bits, maybe a main theme or a melody and some solos or whatever. And they loved it. They were like, this is really cool. Like the combination of the guitar with our little composition here. We're digging it. Well, it blew up. After that, they went, okay, let's do more. And who else can we get? Let's see if we can get that guy. And maybe
where do they live?
They're in Boston.
Right.
They're in Boston. So
you guys just kind of email the tracks back and forth?
Yeah.
That's cool.
So now it's like we have Bumblefoot is on it.
What?
Satchel from Steel Panther has contributed a track. We have the drummer from...
He is too good for like a joke band. It's
Oh yeah, well I knew of Russ when he played with Rob Halford.
Oh wow.
Back in the early 90s.
Yes. What was that band called?
Fight.
Yeah.
That's where I first heard him. I heard of him before that because he was a student of Paul Gilbert's. But on the album, on our album, he does his best Yngwie impression. Yeah. So when you're listening to it, and if you go, is that it? No, that's Satchel on that one. The drummer from Pearl Jam.
Wow.
The guy, like the classic guy, Dave Abruzese, who's on the first 3 albums or thereabouts. He did a track or 2 for us. Who else? A lot of players that I'm aware of just because I've got my nose to the grindstone, but they're not necessarily like well-known players, myself included. But some of the other guys, there's a guy named Jimmy Bell who's totally ripping. He was second in line for the Aussie gig, and Zach Wild got it.
Oh wow!
So he was freakishly good player.
Did you ever hear the story about when Buckethead briefly had the gig?
Yeah, very briefly. Yep. Yeah. I love that story.
Sorry to cut
So
you
good.
off.
No, but that's a funny story. Yeah. Wouldn't take the mask off.
That's so cool that kind of what it's like internet slang. Real recognizes real, and just that you get all these musicians from different parts of the world, and you just have a couple people just being like, "Hey, I got this.
Yeah.
Let's see who wants." And it's so cool that the people who hear it, even though they might seem like on this like other strata of fame, they're just like, "Can I do something with this?"
It's totally.
It's inspiring.
That's it.
You know?
Absolutely. I mean, basically what they're hearing a lot of the time is whatever I've already done to the track. Mm-hmm. That's what they get.
How much? Yeah, that's true
Right?
too.
It's
Is there a
like-
lot of back and forth? Have you ever sent anything back and they're like, "Oh, we were thinking something different"?
Not really, no.
Really?
It's never really happened.
You just knock it out of the park every time.
Well, you know what? Just to be nice, I'll say yeah. just to be nice, I'll say yeah. But no, I mean, it takes a while for me to become happy with it before I can fire it off. Too.
Yeah, I loved that Glenn Drover solo composition.
Oh yes, you remember that
thing.
See, that was cool because I mean, there's a bunch of these little guitar contest things, shred contest things popping up here and there, right?
Yeah.
And I get tagged in this stuff all the time. And it's not my thing. It doesn't really interest me. I think the whole arrangement of it is just something that doesn't really appeal to me.
There's those contests where people play like Flight of the Bumblebee at
that's
the
just-
highest tempos.
Yeah, but they're not.
Yeah.
Because they're already sloppy at their beginning tempo, and it's like, no, sorry, you're not playing at 3,000 because that you're not even doing it at 170. So stop, just stop. If it's not clean, it didn't happen. But where was I going with this? Oh, the contest stuff. Yeah, that was actually the only contest I've ever entered, and I won it. Mm-hmm. But the reason why I bothered to enter it is it was Megadeth related, so it had my name all over it. For one. Number two, it wasn't a shred contest. Glenn Drover, not only is he a great player, but he's a producer. The contest involved a snippet from his solo album, and I think the solo that was in place, like in the section of where the contestants would do their thing, was a Vinnie Moore solo. So he actually took Vinnie's solo out, and he had the contestants write and record and play on video their own solo in that section. But here's where the producer mind comes in. Glenn's solo will then kick off right when you're done.
Yeah.
So
You went into it with the mindset of I'm
Building
the
up.
opening act.
Yes.
I'm setting up
exactly
the headliner.
building up to it, exactly, and setting him up to take off, right? Mm-hmm. Not I'm going to try to outdo him,
Yeah.
and then he's going to think I'm, terrific. And that's, for the most part, that's what a lot of the contestants did. Not all of them, but some of them. But
Totally different world, but that's why Snoop Dogg said he'd never feature Eminem on
there you
one
go.
of his tracks.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, could you imagine? I mean, okay, now your turn.
Your turn. Yeah.
Right? It would just be overkill. It'd be stupid. It'd be like a pissing contest, right? So the producer mind goes, that doesn't really match with what's coming up. Doesn't matter that I'm the one whose solo is coming up next. It's like, it wouldn't work, and it didn't.
Did your solo end up on
The album?
on that album?
No,
Or
the
they
album-
kept the one that was already there. and
Oh,
then
the album
that
was already out.
Okay.
When the contest came out.
And then it was just like this kind of like alternate take type
Yeah, it
thing.
was-
Like, what would it be like if?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah. So yeah, it was great. I was biting my nails. I was like, oh my God, this guy. Because I actually kind of knew him a little bit too. I'd met him a few times. I met him, let's see. I first saw him when he was playing with King Diamond, and then I met him a little while after with his other band. And the way we actually met was I had done a transcription of one of his King Diamond solos, and I sent it to him. And he mailed me mailed me back and said, "Hey man, thanks a ton for doing that. Like no one's ever done that." I'm like, "Oh, well, you're welcome." Yeah, it was fun to do. So then later, I'd met him here and there at shows or whatnot, but he's not obligated to give me the prize or whatever for that. I mean, if it wasn't cutting the mustard, if I was doing what I just did there over top, it wouldn't have been any complimentary piece at all to what he was doing. So yeah, it was cool. I won a guitar and a bunch of stuff. But it was cool, yeah, and I've never entered anything since. There's nothing else that's come up that
interested you as much as that.
Yeah, totally. Close to my heart because it was Megadeth related, and I love my band.
Yeah, I was gonna say your album artwork has a very Megadeth, Iron Maiden kind of style to it. How much thought do you personally put into that stuff, or do you just kind of let the visual artists?
My singer John actually does all the art. He did our album cover on iPad.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Just like
all the artwork is him.
Wow.
Now he shows us drafts of it, and we'll suggest little things here and there. But for the most part, it's his.
He's a talented guy, eh?
Yeah.
He plays bass in Jack Sith, right?
Yeah, he plays bass and sings in the cover band we have, Jack Sith. But in Prismind, he sings.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get the name Jack Sith?
I think I do.
Yeah.
Is there more to it than?
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're not laughing, then you don't quite get it.
I mean, I've already heard it, so I had the chuckle. I mean, I'm hearing the Jack shit.
Yes,
and
that's it.
And the Star Wars reference. Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's well, see, we couldn't call the band Jack shit. No one would book us, right? Right?
Yeah. No one would open your emails.
Right? Yeah, exactly. So we had to come up with something in a hurry. The band was already formed. We were already rehearsing. We just
Already
didn't
had
have
a gig
name.
booked.
Almost.
Yeah.
But we needed a name, so we didn't want to take months to figure one out because, unlike Prismind, which took 4 months to figure out a name, everything we had thought of was taken.
Right.
Everything. Jack Sith.
Clever of you to actually Google your name before calling yourself that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it was brutal. It was really hard. Heartbreaking, actually, to let some of the names that we had come up with, we had to let them go because they were taken. It was like, oh, are you kidding me? But Jack Sith was just like, I just thought of something goofy. And then could I take, the potentially controversial part and find an anagram for it?
Yeah.
And as it turns out, all the guys are Star Wars fans, so the Sith part just worked its way in there just nicely. And everyone dug it, so away we go.
It's cool because you guys do some like classic rock songs too, but it's, you are who you are. So like when you're covering like Fortunate Son or something like that, it's still.
Well, to a degree. There are
I'm not saying you're like
no.
all over it, but your personality shines through, and
yeah. Otherwise, what's the point, right? There's a lot of cover bands out there, and they do note for note, faithful versions, I guess, and some of them are really good. I find I don't hear many of them that really put their own personality into it, though, without destroying the song. I mean, it's like
sometimes it's all personality where they like pull up like a chord chart, and then maybe the guitar player knows the song and he teaches it to the rest of the band.
Yeah, and
they're just playing like an interpretation of the guitar player's version of it.
Sometimes that's the way it goes.
Yeah. And that's too much personality. There's no reference point for what it actually was.
But that's we have a good time because we take tasteful liberties, I think we'll call it. Mm-hmm. And there's certain things I'll play exactly note for note because I think that part is perfect and doesn't need to be messed with, and I'm not going to mess with it. And then there's other things where maybe I find that the original wasn't all that memorable. It's not that it was bad, it just doesn't really stick out, so then I'll mostly talk about the solos, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to mess with the rhythm parts much, but yeah, so we have fun doing it and certainly getting reactions, so that's good.
I think one of our first requests ever. I always put it out there before a guest is coming in, like, hey, this is who's coming in, this is what they do. Do you have anything you want us to talk about or anything? No one takes me up on it. They'll just like my post or whatever. You, by the way, gave us the best shout out we've ever gotten with your
the guitar.
guitar and the little rhyme. Yeah. What was that? Weekends here,
fingers
in gear. So and that generated the only request we've ever gotten for topic, which is from your drummer Mike Harshaw. For a Bubbles impression.
Oh my God! Yeah, he does that from time to time. Yeah, I don't know what it is. It's literally the only impression that I can do that's like convincing enough where people are like, dude, if you had those glasses and you wore like flannel and slicked your hair back, like, no one would know.
Did you ever see his band?
Sandbox, I think they were called.
Oh,
yeah, I remember the videos back in
and it's so weird because he's not Bubbles, he's a regular person, right? And it's so weird to be like, that's Bubbles, but it's a guy in a music video.
Yeah, totally. And he doesn't really look
like that.
No.
Yeah.
Which is really weird because it's not like it's an elaborate costume.
No.
And crazy makeup and prosthetics and it's like, I remember seeing him for the first time out of character and I'm like, that's not him. That's not him.
Nice try, bud.
Yeah, the whole Bubbles thing. So that's pretty fun. I mean, just a big fan of the show and whatnot.
You excited for that cartoon that's coming out?
I didn't hear about it.
They're making a Trailer Park Boys cartoon on Netflix. Yeah.
Really? Oh, okay. Well, I got enough of the real seasons to catch up with.
Yeah.
I'm still I'm around 9 now.
Oh yeah.
So I got a few seasons to gear up for. But I suppose you brought this up because you want me to do one.
I certainly do.
You see there,
Erik wants it.
All right, let's see. Well, fucking sitting here with Mike and Erik and the Michael AM radio show, and just fucking sitting here drinking water because they don't have beer, and playing some guitar. Haven't played any Rush yet, but I'll fucking get to it. And anyway, thanks for tuning in.
Don't play any Rush, Bubbles. We're gonna get demonetized. I said, don't. We got beer, though, if you want it. No. Erik, go get Bubbles a beer.
So there you go. I haven't whipped that out in a while.
Wow. That was nice of him to drop in.
Right? Exactly.
It sucks that Kelly didn't do the impression, but it's cool that the real Bubbles from Trailer Park Boys dropped in for a second. What's the perfect balance between exercises and songs, repertoire? I always think that if someone's playing songs, you can apply all the principles of exercises to just what they're interested in. And, just if you tweak it within the song, like if there's anything particularly difficult, maybe you want to isolate that one aspect of a person's playing.
Yeah, exactly.
And work on that divorced from anything else.
I think it should, without there being a formula to it, I think it should start with music first. It should start with you wanting to learn how to play a certain song, and then your exercises really are to deal with whatever technical issues you run into. And that's basically what I do for guitar exercises, I guess you could say, is there's something that I'm finding tricky in one of my own tunes or something I want to be able to do better in the cover tunes or whatever it is. And I'll design an exercise around that issue, whatever it is, right? And guys like Steve Morris and John Petrucci always talk about that. And so it always stuck with me. I'm like, hey, that's smart. Instead of just playing random exercises because they're good for you, right? Mm-hmm. Why waste all that time? Why not just get something or work on something that's actually going to combat the problem area, right? So, yeah. Like I had one that I came up with that was I don't know how specific it was, but I think it really dealt more with position shifting in terms of its, its technical hurdle. So let me see if I could. I'll see if I could play it. Something like that. And it just kept going and going and going. But it was all about the jumping and shifting. And you want to make it as transparent as you can, which isn't easy, especially when you're doing like... and you're moving from position to position, and you don't want to hear the slides into it. You want to be able to just... To the listener, it should sound like it's all in one little area.
Mm-hmm.
And so that could be tricky. You have to really be careful of the little slides you make and stuff like that.
Right, because that can be a really cool sounding effect, but you have to be honest with yourself if you're doing it.
Yeah.
Because it's easier.
Oh, totally. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
You mentioned Steve Morse, alternate picking versus economy picking. I'm a huge Steve Morse fan, and
Yeah, me too.
I remember just whatever, I don't know, a 2005 Guitar World magazine thing he did, and he just plays these, he kind of A-B'd a sweep arpeggio versus an alternate picked arpeggio. I was like, that's the one I want.
Yeah.
But then more recently I've been on this huge gypsy jazz kick, so it's been years since economy picking has even like been a blip on my radar. But there's this one thing they do which is like a 3-note per string, like down, up, down, down, up, down.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, where they kind of roll to the next string.
Yeah.
And it just, for the first time in a very long time, economy picking has, or that approach has seemed like anything more than just a bad habit. Do you worry that might become something that, like when you're in the middle of something, your brain gets to this crossroads, do I do this thing or do I do this thing? And it causes you to fuck up.
Well, if you don't, if you have two approaches that you could possibly do, if they're both equally developed, then you actually have a choice. If one's more developed, that's probably what you're going to default to, right? Just because it's on the fly. Economy picking is one of those things where, like, I don't do very much of it. I just haven't practiced it. There's literally, like, you know... something like that, or... I couldn't possibly alternate pick that right now.
Right.
Right? But
yeah, so that's the thing. So there's these certain things where, you know, you can get these kind of like sweeps and runs where you're just kind of like triggering this one motion that hits all these notes.
But when it comes to scalar-based ideas, I think, well, you have two options. If you alternate pick it, every note gets its own separate attention, right? You can control it dynamically. With economy picking, it's tougher to control it dynamically because one stroke is going for the ride, right? That second one, unless I deliberately control its velocity and its whatever, if you just let your pick go and do it, chances are one of those two is going to be weaker.
Or off time.
Yeah. It's easier to be off time with it. It'd be, run, but every third step, do two left.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It would be weird, right? It's not how, But then you get a guy like Frank Gambale, the guy who basically coined the whole, like he really perfected it. That guy doesn't have any of those issues. Like you can tell that he's integrating his ears into what he's doing. He's being very careful that everything sounds the way he really wants it to sound, and he's not just doing the motion because it's going to allow him to play fast. He's still very keen on how everything sounds. So to me, he's the model. There's a lot of economy pickers, and there's some other guys out there too who are really good at it. I'm just not it's not interesting enough to me to do it. Much more than what I just did. It doesn't. It's not. You know what? It probably was an accidental thing for me. I probably did do it in the formative stages of trying to develop technique and stuff. In fact, I remember there was one time I was working on something and years ago, and to my brain, I thought I was alternate picking, and then I looked, and I realized, oh, I saw 2 downs there, or 3 ups, or whatever, right? My hand felt like it was doing this, but I looked and went,
Yeah.
And so many people are doing that, right? So many people. Just noticing it in teaching, where I'll show them this thing, and they think they're alternate picking it, and I'm like, oh, you just did 2 downs.
They revert to downstrokes.
And they're like, no, I didn't. And then same thing. They look and they're like, oh, I saw it, and they can't get out of that loop of doing it. They're so caught up in it because muscle memory again took over, but they're not aware. They're aware. They're not. There's no awareness of what they're doing. They're just doing, and they're hoping that this is right. This right hand business, right? So they have to reprogram, and that means slowing it right down to the point where you can think note by note and do that. So that's a hurdle for a lot of intermediate players, I would say, is getting out of that. But here's the thing: what's the difference? Who cares whether it's economy or alternate? Really? Did the notes come out?
Yeah.
Well, there is a difference. There's a different sound.
That's
right?
true.
When you were talking about the Steve Morse thing, and he does a sweep, probably didn't sound horrible. And when he alternate picked, and you went, "That's the one I want."
Yeah. What if it's not?
What if it's not? Yeah. What if you want the smoother sounding one? Right.
Mm-hmm.
He's a smooth picker, but it's very staccato. The notes jump out very precisely and whatnot.
As opposed to having like one accented one at the beginning and at the end of the run.
Yeah. Everything jumps out. But those are the decisions. That's a musical decision that a player has to make. And that should be the reason to develop both techniques. If personally for me, if I want to hear something smoother, I won't pick at all. Right? I'll just legato. Yeah. Just like, like very little left hand. Sorry, very little right hand. Whereas if I were to pick everything, it would be a different. There's the 2 versions, right?
I feel like these are literally all the licks that Steve Vai plays as the devil in Crossroads. Like he just waltzes out and does this with his eyes closed. Here, I got to take a bathroom break real quick.
Yeah, go for it. So bizarre.
Yowza. Actually, I want to see if anyone's snuck any questions in under the wire. Unlikely, but who knows?
It's a rockin' little Vox you got there, dude.
It's cool, eh?
Yeah.
So many amp simulations in one little. Which one did you go for?
I don't even remember what it was. I don't even know if I moved it. It might be just the one you have it set.
Oh, wow.
Oh, okay.
They all have some sort of non-copyright infringing
Right.
reference to a real
Yeah.
amp.
Yeah.
It's a Cali mount. Could be a Soldano, maybe on that one. Too much fun.
So much support on this post. Once again, this is so far the greatest shout out we've received. Other than the Bubbles impression, we have some congratulations. I may have to record this. I love the idea of someone like having this like on a tape deck or something.
Right,
like that.
yeah, exactly.
Now it's on the internet. Yeah, you can. This will be available forever. MySpace just like shut down all the. Did you have any music on MySpace?
No, I never had a MySpace.
No, that's good. Would have been lost forever.
Did they finally shut it down?
Yeah.
Did they? Oh, okay.
I don't know if it's. I've just been seeing this article saying that they've lost 10 years of music somehow.
Oh wow. Oops.
Yeah, I don't know if it was probably on purpose. Like they probably purposely just like stopped
be.
giving a shit because they like revamped their website for some reason, even though no one's on it.
That's true. I thought that was kind of weird when I heard
Yeah.
about that. It's like,
Like,
all right,
what?
what are you going to
Okay.
compete now with? Right?
We decided now, in
Yeah.
12 years later, that we're gonna start Tom from MySpace?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, he just got off like a decade-long coke binge, and he's like, "All right, let's show Facebook what we're made of." So you got, can I share this photo by my Facebook group? That's not something we can talk about. Looks like you've got your pistols packed. Pistolas. That's awesome. Awesome pic. You sexy thing. You. Man, so much love. This is 170 likes on this pic. You are a superstar, bro.
Hey, cool.
Giving us nothing to talk about. That's okay.
That's all right.
They can send in questions when they hear this for
There you go.
the second entry. All right, maybe just I'm going to peruse my list, see if there's anything we missed, and then maybe we can. I don't know what you might feel like playing. Actually, I've been working on like a little outro theme. I was wondering if you'd
Play over it.
feel so inclined as to just like improvise
Sure.
some stuff over. Oh, that'll be
Yeah.
that'll
Absolutely.
be fun to watch, because we've had some like singer songwriters come in, right, and we set up for them to. I don't really want this to be like an artist spotlight or performance show. 'Cause we were talking earlier about. I don't want this to be like a platform, because that's so instantly going to turn into work, which. This is not, because it costs me money, and that's not how job works. Jobs work. That's not how jobs work. Here, we'll edit that. We'll edit in when I said it the right way.
That's not how job works.
Not how job works, bro.
That's actually better that way. I think it's funnier.
Yeah.
Right?
Let's come back to the beginner level stuff, because I'm sure a lot of the people listening to this aren't at the level where they're fine-tuning their arpeggios in multiple octaves and inversions. What's something like a strumming pattern like say you're playing something like, what's that Bob Dylan song, Knocking on Heaven's Door?
Yeah.
3 chords. What's an instinct that you see frequently that, you know, one thing that I see a lot is when people, once again, kind of like economy picks strumming.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that's a bad habit. It's actually, well, it's not a bad habit. It's just not knowing the principle behind strumming.
I think if you're a lead guitarist, right? If you're just a guitarist and you have no intention of singing ever, and your rhythm's dead on like that, and you have certain accents that you want to hit as a result of this kind of strumming, then all the power to you. But you're going to have a real fucking hard time singing over this whack, disjointed strumming pattern.
Well, even
right?
if you do that, you know, I know what you're describing. I don't know what the name of it would be, but it doesn't sound good. It sounds as goofy as it looks. There's just something that doesn't... it sounds stiff. It sounds not organic. The whole concept of strumming, and this took me a while to figure out because I would get sheet music, and it would sometimes, whatever song I was looking at, it would give suggested pick directions, right? Mm-hmm. And so I would try to follow those.
You just do those.
Do those.
Down,
yeah.
up.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, you know, you're sitting there go, that does not feel right. And again, you start, you know, blaming yourself. You think, I must be just an idiot. Or I'm not cut out for this, whatever. But it took me a while to figure out that strumming is really based on the whole pendulum movement that doesn't stop. Mm-hmm. Just the concept of being able to play straight 16th notes. Now, for a pattern that doesn't actually involve straight 16th notes, let's take... Sorry, that sounds a little like crap right now, doesn't it?
Probably that Cali metal tone.
Could be. Now, if you were deaf, it would look like this. It would look like I'm constantly doing this. You would think I'm contacting the strings the whole time, but I'm only contacting the strings when I want to hear them. And it looks relaxed. Doesn't look like I'm straining. Right? Even if it's funk, whether it's folk, 9 times out of 10, it's generated from that constant motion of just down, up, and a very relaxed hand. And the other thing that's worth noting with that too is I see people attempt that, but their arm and their wrist are completely straight, and they're generating it from the elbow. And so, like, it looks like they're jerking off, basically. It's this. There has to be, because it's like shaking water off your hand, or doing this, or whatever, right? It's that. Yeah, see, you're the only one of the only other guys I know that can do that. So, or whipping a towel at someone, whatever it is. It's natural.
Lethal with a towel.
So you do this enough to you, and then out comes the towel.
Yeah.
But it's that, and that allows you to do this forever. You can do this without tiring out for quite a long time. It's that little art. So basically, from a guitar point of view, you're creating a bridge over the strings, as opposed to that.
Yeah, I noticed this kind of... I was really watching your right hand in some things, and it's interesting because you don't want to be swinging your wrist too much, because there's all these tiny little bones that will kind of grind away, and I always think it's best to use larger muscle groups than smaller ones when possible, right?
Yeah,
for longevity.
But the muscle group, the mechanics of this is that. Let's see if I can. I'm angling my guitar. No one can see this, but
Hopefully this isn't.
I'm aiming it at him like a bow and arrow. When you pick downward, it's your wrist twisting, this way.
Or it's kind of like your forearm twisting. Yeah.
It's not, so there is no movement in the wrist itself proper.
Yeah.
Right? But look what happens when you do a downstroke. How many strings did I get? Not all of them. Right? I'll get the bottom few. An upstroke tends to be you scoop 2 or 3, maybe 4. So when you're strumming, oops, I'm not hitting all the strings all the time, right?
Yeah.
And if you did, it sounds, well,
Bad.
about as bad as that sounded.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's... And the thing is, and what really got me and what kind of bugged me is that if you look at a guitar, like an accurate guitar transcription of a song like that, it's notated that way. They'll show you them hitting the bottom few strings and occasionally the top few.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there and go, seriously? I have to go...
I used to think when I was starting out, I used to think I had to I didn't see the chords
Right.
there, so I'm just like...
Jumping back and forth.
Yeah,
right?
from these two things. And it...
But they're just... But again, the job of a transcriber is to notate what occurred.
Exactly what's happening.
What occurred.
Yeah.
Not what the intention was.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The player will say, I'm just strumming a G chord. And they'll show you a G chord.
Yeah.
And then you assume, of course, that you strum the whole chord every time. But that's not what actually is happening if you have that relaxed strumming wrist going on. 9 times out of 10, you'll clip the bottom few on a down and the top few on an up. And it'll actually sound good and feels good. Like it doesn't feel like you're hurting yourself or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I went through that stage too of kind of stiff arming it and getting it all from the elbow and going, well, this can't be right.
Have you ever had any repetitive strain problems? No?
No.
Just clean technique and got any go-to stretches or anything?
Not really. I used to. Well, actually, I don't want to say used to. I still do them on occasion. The ones in the John Petrucci video.
Oh, yeah.
Rock Discipline, right? He kind of shows you a bunch of different...
Oh, I thought it was Psycho Guitar Techniques. What was it?
Well, that's...
The dub? Have you
that's
seen
the
that?
dub. Yeah. That's
No,
the
I know
dub.
exactly
Yeah.
what you're talking about, though. Yeah.
Yeah, he does a series of them, and they're really helpful. Nothing too elaborate. But honestly, again, when it comes to warming up,
Mm-hmm.
my new warm-up concept... It's not
Slow
new.
and
It's
clean.
just, well, it's just... Warming up to me, again, is reminding my muscle memory of how efficient I want it to be.
Right.
So there's no reason for me to overexert or burn out before the show. It's about how light I can press and just enough pick.
Identifying where you might tend to use more than necessary.
It's just you just kind of. It's sort of like it's the equivalent of a championship golfer. Even they do those test swings right before they whack it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
All they're doing is just, reminding the muscle memory of the path they want to take before they engage it. It's the same thing. So I'll warm up. Say something like that. I'll pick a few things maybe that have different challenges involved in them, but the whole idea is to be as relaxed as I can and just do it for a long period of time. I might spend 5 minutes doing that without stopping. And I'm not, by the end of the 5 minutes, which is the length of most songs, I've done one thing, but I'm still not tired because my goal is not to burn out in that 5 minutes. It's to stay as relaxed as I can for 5 minutes so that when I'm actually playing in front of an audience or whatever, I can relax knowing that I'm relaxed.
Right. You have that
right.
zone in your head that you can just pop right into.
Yeah. Same with the left hand. Same with all the legato stuff. Same thing. I'm just gonna program the fingers to be as light as possible, listening for rhythmic accuracy and all that kind of crap. And then when I finally let go, it's there, and I don't feel like I'm straining. And other people say, you look very relaxed when you're doing that. Well, I am.
I'm going to need you to stop making me want to buy a guitar with a whammy bar on it. I do not want a Floyd Rose in my life.
That's true. No. Yeah.
All right. I think I got one last thing.
Sure.
And then
we'll jam.
Yeah, get something.
You got a track going.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I think it's like the outro theme, and like I was saying, for when we have an instrumentalist, I think maybe we'll do one of these per season, whatever, maybe like once a year. I'm very bad at keeping to these things. I say, and I feel like as soon as I say it, I'm like, oh, over it. I just screwed it all up. This is the only track we're gonna make. Every instrumentalist who comes in has to solo over this, and we're never making another one.
That's a smart idea, actually.
I just jotted down coming out of the woodshed. Any advice for guitarists who you feel are like stuck in this practice bubble? When do you recognize when it's time to just go out there? And there's this fear like, oh, what if I screw up or whatever? And it's like, well, eventually you have to just jump out of the nest and see what you can do. And then if shit hits the fan, then you need to work on. Otherwise you're just gonna be in this stagnant state, maybe drilling stuff over and over again that you're already pretty good at, and having this massive blind spot to other elements of your game.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I was kind of like that. Like I said, I started when I was 9, and I practiced. I didn't join my first band until 6 years into it.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been practicing for 6 years. Could I have joined a band or been in a band before then? Yes. Did I want to? No, and because I didn't want to come out or present myself publicly sounding underdeveloped.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I knew it was, where I wanted to be wasn't where I was. Did that make sense? I'm never happy with where I am in terms of, and I think most players are like that, where they're always, no matter how good you get, you still hear other stuff. But to be honest, could I have joined a band before then? Yes. I decided not to, but what broke it for me was the band that I joined was actually with one of my neighborhood buddies who was older than me. And so he threatened to kick my ass if I didn't join his band. Jokingly, probably.
You need that friend.
He's like, hey, get out. I used to jam in the summer in our carport. Right, so I have my little amp and my little guitar, and I would jam. And he'd bike by or whatever and hear me. And one day he came over and says, "Hey, we got some guys that are jamming. You're gonna come play with us." And I was like, "Oh, I don't know, man. He's like, shut up. I'm gonna put you in a headlock and take you with me if you don't come with me." Right?
I think that's how Corey Taylor ended up in Slipknot, isn't it?
I don't know. I don't know. Could be.
I think he was surfing garbage cans or something.
But that's kind of how
I heard they literally like threatened him because he already had something else going on, and they're like, "No, you do this with us."
Yeah. Well, it was kind of like that. It was like that. So, which is good sometimes. But that's
what did you learn from those first times playing with a band that you wouldn't have realized, in the practice room?
The concept of a deadline. When you don't have anything on the go, solid date-wise, the work that you need to do will fill that. That's an old principle, which I've heard, which is really cool. The amount of work you have to do will fill the gap.
Will expand to fit the amount of time you have to do it.
Exactly.
Yes.
Right? Brilliant. So that's what happened. I experienced deadlines. And so, meaning, of course, the first rehearsal. We have X number of songs to play and learn, and I've got a week or 2 weeks or whatever it was. I don't remember now. But you sit there and you go, like, I remember one time, years later, a friend had double booked himself. He plays in a couple bands, and he had double booked himself. And the one band he was playing with was playing at a casino for a couple days. And he had already booked himself with something else. So he said, "Are you interested?" I said, "Yeah, of course." It was decent pay and all that kind of stuff. I go, can you send me the list of songs? And it was like 30 songs. And I had a week and a half, I think, to learn and be comfortable with 30 songs. I'm not a charts guy. I'm not going to put charts on stage, and I don't want to have cue sheets and all that kind of crap, right? Like, I know a lot of people will do that. I'm not comfortable with that idea. I either know it or I don't. Right?
Yeah.
So that's 30 songs. Some of them I already knew. Some of them I had no clue. Right? It's still but my deadline was set. I had obligated myself to do it, and I did. I got it done. If you told me to just for fun, learn 30 songs,
Yeah.
I'll get back to you in a few months, because that's how long it would. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, I wouldn't be pressed to do so.
And you'll learn like the fun parts.
Yes, exactly. Right? Yeah, exactly.
And like not the arrangement necessarily. No. Whereas it's just like we're playing these and some scary looking casino manager is going to come have a word with us if we fuck up too much.
Exactly. So that was one of the things that you learn when you finally start playing with other people. But advice, like if you're thinking, I'm going to say, hey, just go for it, man. You're ready when you feel you're ready. And I know some guys, and they're great players, but they basically don't budge out of their room until they're ready. And you're either, you'll know, but you have to be looking for it, I think. If there's no inclination to do it, you're not going to do it, right? And if there is, you'll do it. I mean, some guys are happy to be bedroom players and whatnot, and others are actually doing this because they want to eventually step out. So you'll know. I don't really have any advice for that. It's like,
how about the older non-guitar player? Someone in their 40s or older, never done anything musical, and always kind of had that little itch. Like, what if I did this? What would you say to?
I teach some of them.
I have as well.
I got some guys in their
Some
40s.
of them stick around too, and it's impressive what
totally.
happens.
Yep.
I think that's inspiration enough that
totally.
you can do it. Have you ever heard of that guy who got hit by lightning and just started playing piano?
No, I don't think I have.
This is a true story. This guy got hit by lightning and he left his wife to pursue a classical piano career.
Wow.
Yeah, it just fried his brain, but he's
amazing.
really good now.
Hey.
And he never played before.
That's one for the books.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny, actually.
So you don't have to get hit by lightning
No,
to pick up the
exactly.
guitar is what I'm saying.
No.
Go get your lessons from Kelly. You got some shout outs? You want a Swiss picks?
Oh yeah, Swiss picks, guys. Yeah, of course. I'm a pick nerd. I've got thousands of them. Some of them are more boutique.
Can I see that?
Yeah, sure. Some of them are
This
more...
isn't like one of those $75 dragon tooth picks.
No.
is it?
The Swiss picks are very reasonably priced.
You have one of those? They ever send you one?
Which?
There's like a $70 pick.
Oh,
or
I've
something.
seen some crazy
Yeah,
stuff.
that's
Well, I've bought
silly.
a few that were not that much, but were up there.
Oh, it's so fun.
But they're cool. Yeah, I mean the Swiss picks guys.
What's the last word on your shirt? Cheddar? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Because I was like, what is
Nuclear
that word?
cheddar.
I was like, the whole time I'm trying to think of like what the word could be.
It's like a chunkier Jazz 3.
That's the Rusty Cooley model.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they're all different material from each other too. This one glows in the dark very well, I might add, but the tone of it is wicked. And the cool thing I like about these two is, I mean, they're immediately visually identifiable. Once you know that this is called a Swiss pick, the next time you see one, you'll know exactly, because it looks like Swiss cheese, right? The bonus of that, of course, is that those holes are your grip.
Yeah.
They act as your grip, right? So for anyone who's suffering from slippy grippy pickitis, these are great for that. But the guy who runs the show there, Pete.
Can I see that green one?
Yep. Pete reached out. He had seen some stuff I had been posting or whatever, and he reached out to me and said, hey, I've been following your stuff. I think you're got some good stuff going on. Would you be interested in some samples? I said, sure. I've already been thinking about ordering some anyway, so yeah, fire some off. And we just built a rapport, and next thing you know, he's like, hey, do you want to be on the roster? I'm like, yeah, sure. Absolutely. So, pretty cool. Some great players on the Swiss Picks roster, that's for sure. And they make bigger ones, too. I like the jazz size, the smaller size like that, but they do make full, like regular size ones, too. But they're almost all pointy, which is good. I like that
I have
kind of tone.
I have two kinds of picks that I like. Actually, can you grab that yellow one there? This is what I'm about.
Oh, yeah. The classic Tortex triangle.
Usually for bass, but sometimes for guitar, depending on...
Yeah? Oh, check this out. That's kind of a regular... I'll stay at that point. It's kind of a regular point, right?
Yeah.
When I started getting into sharper, like point picks, it's a little weird, and especially the size of them. They're not very big, right? But I started to notice there's a huge difference tone-wise.
Yeah.
Right? So here's like a regular pointed pick, I should say, where it's kind of rounded. And here's one with a sharp point. Let's try that again. And the pointy. I don't know if you can hear the difference. Most people are like, dude, you're out of your mind.
No, I hear it a bit.
Like the definition of like...
Yeah.
Yeah.
The clarity.
That
I feel it more than I hear it, though. That's one of those things. I think it's about... The player will notice it.
That harsh corner. Like, so many shredders play with the Jazz 3s.
Yeah.
Because it's... Yeah. You have that teensy bit of pick sticking out from under your thumb, makes it easier to hit the pinch harmonics, I guess. And then
the pinch harmonics, they have nothing to do with the pick at all.
That's what people do say that though about the Jazz 3. Like that's why I use it because it's so smaller.
But also that sharp corner, you don't have to put as much pick past the string.
Well, you don't want to anyway.
Exactly.
You don't want to.
Yeah.
But I've heard people say, "Oh, this pick's good for pinch harmonics," or what. But they're irrelevant. The pick has nothing to do with it. It's
just you.
It's your thumb. Yeah. It's just all the pick is doing is getting the string going.
Mm-hmm.
So you're either holding it right or you're not. Your thumb's in the right spot or it's not to make the harmonic happen, right? So you get a guy like Billy Sheehan on bass who's not using a pick at all, and he's doing doing pinch harmonics with no pick, so it's not the pick. For that anyway. But yeah, that little kind of sound that rounded tip picks make, started to drive me nuts. So I just kind of
I know what you mean.
Flipped over to these, but I've been playing Jazz 3s for, well, probably since the early 90s when I first kind of heard about them. So yeah, these were great. He sent me, Pete from Swiss Picks sent me some, and I was like, man, these are not novelty picks. When I was, almost half concerned about that.
Yeah.
But they sound great. And everyone I've ever, lent them to or given them to, they're like, man, these are really good. So
I could see why you might be skeptical with, something that looks like that.
Right.
Like it seems like a gimmick, but it actually makes perfect sense, and the gimmick is kind of like a fun side effect of that.
And the material is not a joke either. I mean, there's all text.
If I don't get some of these fucking picks for after this 20-minute plug,
I'll set you up. I'll set you up. Yeah, they just coast over the string and have enough attack where it's pretty awesome.
Beautiful. Kelly.
Yeah.
Swiss Picks.
That's it.
Prismind. Symphinity.
Nice.
Where can I hear Symphinity? The first album.
It's not out yet.
Oh, it's not out yet.
Not out yet. It'll be out. I'm thinking it's going to be about within a month. We'll have it.
Okay, you said it's recorded.
It's recorded, and we're mostly done mixing, but we're putting everything else in place and then getting it mastered and all that kind of stuff. So we're very close. Very, very close. And I think we're aiming to have the first single be accompanied with a video of some sort. I don't think it'd be a performance video because the guys that are on this... Well, the first...
Fly everyone in for it.
The first video, if I'm not mistaken, or the first song will have myself, Bumblefoot, and Ollie Herbert from All That Remains.
Wow.
On it.
Have you met them yet?
I've chatted very briefly with Bumblefoot via email. Ollie, I've done some Skyping with and back and forth. Of course, rest in peace, Ollie. I don't know if you know the story behind him, but he passed away in October. Total bummer, because he was one of the catalysts to getting a lot of these other guys involved.
Right.
He was one of the first, name guys involved. And he's on, I think, 3 or 4 tracks or something like that. But
what's he been involved with?
All That Remains.
Right. Okay. Right.
Yeah, he's been with them since the beginning. Now they have a guy named Jason Richardson. I think I'm getting that right. Is that right? Okay. Yeah, he's taken over for this tour and probably forever. But yeah, Ollie. He was my favorite player of the newer generation metal guys. He actually, I don't know, there's something about his playing that really...
So sad.
Totally, man. Too young and well, let's just say that it's still under investigation. But, yeah. So Bumblefoot and myself will be on the first track that comes out.
Are there some socials that people can follow for Symphinity news?
Not yet.
I've been pushing it
under
the radar.
I've been pushing for a Facebook page and a couple of things to perhaps generate some interest ahead of time, but
that is a good idea.
I thought so, but
they just want to come out of nowhere.
I trust in the process, and there's people behind it, so they'll do whatever they.
Is new Prismind in the works?
Yep, writing it as we speak. New Soundchaser is almost done recording. I think there's only...
I love that project.
Yeah, cool. Well,
yeah.
I'm done my parts. I think everything's done but some of the drums. So we're getting very close to popping that one out too. Yeah, it's going to be a prolific year. Up to 4 albums, I think, this year.
Wow. Looking forward to... That's like kind of like a reverse from our schedule, huh? All right. Let's hear Kelly shred.
We're going for the title of least productive band of all.
Least prolific.
Hey.
What's the opposite of prolific? Conlific.
Prolapsed? I don't know.